experience. We're a busy city, and so you're going to get a lot of developmental time in doing a lot of things really quick when you hit the street. But what the joy of that is that we're still small enough that we know each other by first names. We pass each other in the hallways. So it's like a small town vibe here at Regina Police Service, but big city opportunity. So the next 4 slides, I'm going to cover some of our divisions. And this is just going to speak to the opportunity options that we have at Regina Police Service. I'm going to start with patrol. This is our major one, CSD, Community Services Division. So, sorry, I got to pause you guys. There's someone at the door. Okay, pardon me. Let's start back here. So, Community Services Division. So these are the men and women in uniform. Our biggest kind of meat and potatoes of this section is patrol, and that's where you're going to learn everyone starts. It's a bulk of that makes up this section, and we really can't do any of the other specialty sections without having patrol because they're the first response. Other divisions are School Resource Officer, Traffic Safety Unit, Combined Traffic Services. Saskatchewan is better known as CTSS, and this is province-wide. So if you've ever seen a Regina Police Service vehicle on the highway or in rural settings, there's a good chance it could be a member from CTSS. And what they do is they work with highways, RCMP, and they do a lot of the highway patrol on safe loads, but they're also helping RCMP responding to calls for service if there's no backup. Crime Stoppers, again, this is, you can call in tips. We post pictures on our website and socials asking if anybody can identify a person. Might not recognize them at all, but I guarantee you somebody does. And so Crime Stoppers is just a program where people can provide information anonymously. And then kind of 2 partnership ones here, TRIP. This is our intersectorial partnership with the school boards. So we have a designated police officer that works with Regina Catholic and public school boards to ensure kids are getting to school, that they're participating in sports, if families need extra help with parenting, conflict. It's kind of a collaborative approach between social workers, teachers, school board, and the police officers. And then PACT, this is our police and crisis team. So it's mental health social workers paired up with police officers. And they're typically responding to the vulnerable sector, any kind of suicide, mental health crisis. They can really slow things down and spend some time with the individual and get them connected to services. So this would be one of our biggest divisions that we have. The next slide is just going to highlight some of the calls for service just to demonstrate how busy Regina is. So again, in 2024, there were just over 59,000 calls for service that patrol responded to. Of course, there's other calls coming in. We run the Saskatchewan 911. There's administrative calls, but really it's hop in day and night, and it doesn't matter if it's a Monday or a Friday. It could be just as busy. So you're going to get to experience a lot of types of calls for service, and then get to do extra things like good quality investigations, maybe some source work, help out forensics items. Like, you're really going to learn a lot of things in the city because we're so busy. Okay, our next division here is ISD. If you haven't picked up on it, you guys, we use acronyms. So this is our investigative services division. So this is a lot of all plainclothes members. So it's kind of split into two. So crimes against person and then crimes against property. So I'm not going to highlight all of the ones that are on the screen, but I want you to look at it because throughout Regina Police Service, there's over 70 different areas that you can work in. And a lot of the ones on this slide appeal to people. This is their future goals. So when I sit on the panels, people want to work in sections like major crimes, child abuse, domestic area. And then on the flip side, the property crimes like our guns, gangs, drugs, those type of units. So both kind of exist. These people, you've likely interacted with them but never known they were a police officer because they're in plain clothes. So lots of variety here on the ISD side. Then we have our support services division. So this is kind of a mix of everything. So our frontline support, these are officers that are helping out on investigations who maybe have a duty to accommodate, some kind of medical thing, need some time off. They can still be involved with their team and help out with monitoring interviews, collecting surveillance, listening to phone taps. There's a lot of variety in that position. Court liaison, we have one officer dedicated to the courthouse. That's if anybody turns themselves in on warrants, or we have a lot of high prolific cases and we want to ensure that there's safety and security. So that's kind of the liaison for court services. Our inquiry officers, so these are the officers that sit at the front desk that take in non-emergent complaints. So somebody vandalized your car, you come out and find it the next day, it's not in progress, it's not likely that an officer is going to come out to see you in that circumstance, but you come into the front desk, report it, we take photos, and then send it off for investigation. Our detention unit is our holding cells within our facility here. So we have 2 sergeants that work down there, a special constable, and then a medic. And so they're responsible for prisoner maintenance. Usually, typically, the longest we'll ever hold somebody in our holding cell is 24 hours or less, unless they're going to court or there's some other significant crime that's being involved. Some people stay longer, but for the most part, it's kind of a revolving door of people coming in and out. And so those officers are responsible for their safety and all the court documents and making sure they're released properly. Emergency services unit. So again, this is one that I hear from a lot of potential recruits. These areas within this division appeal to them. So Regina Police Service was the first agency in Saskatchewan municipally to have a full-time SWAT team. If that's an aspiration, it used to be something that you kind of just did along another position or when you were called out, and now it's a full-time team. K9 is also a full-time team. We have 2 dogs per shift and we have 4 shifts. And so we utilize K9 for a lot of our tracking and high-risk warrant type stuff. The rest of the ones in that bracket are like side hats that officers wear. So crisis negotiators, they get called out with SWAT officers on those high tense situations. So I could be a recruiter and a crisis negotiator, or I could be a school resource officer and an explosives disposal tech. The public safety unit is kind of our crowd control. So these are a lot of the officers that you're seeing at big events. So concerts, football games, parades, any kind of public protest. A lot of these officers are coming out. They're part of that team. Then we have our aerial support unit. So if you haven't heard, we've had a plane for quite some time. It's really changed the way that we can do policing. In my opinion, there's a lot of things that bring more safety to the officers on the ground. So there's a camera that's on the plane. The pilots that do fly the plane are police officers. And then we have a spotter, like a tactical flight officer that sits in the back of the plane, and that officer is working the camera, the computer system, and the radio, and communicating all the information to the patrol officers on the ground. So if a suspect flees in a car, if the plane's up, they can track that vehicle, so then we're avoiding any kind of hot pursuit, high-risk chase. If they run and abandon on foot and they're discarding items as they go, even if it's black of night, the plane can pick up and mark where those items were discarded and then just direct police right to it. We've also seen our plane used for non-criminal offenses, so lost children, missing elderly, more of a search and rescue type thing. So there's a lot of variety that the plane offers. Forensics Identification Unit is kind of like what you would attribute to CSI on TV. So they are all techs that go out and do crime scene reconstruction, fingerprinting, evidence management. In Canada, notoriously, most of the Forensics Ident unit is comprised of police officers with the odd civilian attachment. So a lot of people express an interest in wanting to work in forensics, and you don't necessarily need a degree in forensics. You could apply for that position, and then we would send you to the police college in Ontario, and then you would go get your training from there. Polygraph. We have 2 polygraphists that work for Regina Police Service. So every employee right now who works for our agency is subject to polygraph. They also do criminal tests as well in certain circumstances. So they're pretty busy. The 2 of them rotate through both those jobs. Tech crime, cyber crime, again, this is a lot of data mining, following people on socials. You'd be surprised what people are willing to post about their activity on socials. So we can find a lot of information from that. If we know there's going to be a protest or some big event and there could be a clash or some problems for police, they might be looking for information that's communicated on a larger context to like a bunch of people saying, hey, let's all meet here and take over Cornwall Centre or legislative building. So it gives us a little bit of insight. They're also doing things like picking information off your phone. So if we seize your phone in relation to criminal offense, we then send it and they can pick it apart and get all the information off for us. So some pretty cool work being done there. And then of course our communication center is just as big as our patrol fleet. These are the 911 call takers that are working upstairs in our comm center. They are all civilians and they work on the same shift pattern as patrol. So whoever the comm center is mimics the same shift pattern. So you really get to have that relationship between dispatcher and the officers on the street. So I think there's a competition going on right now for that. They hire every year for communications officers. So it's a great way to get into the organization and get experience. And it's also a great full-time career. Okay, last but not least, corporate services. So human resources, of course, we need human resources as we're employ over like almost 700 people. The recruiters, there's myself, Sergeant Lisa Davey, and Constable Stu Kashane. He is the Indigenous Recruitment Liaison Officer. He does a lot of work in rural communities for career fairs, information sharing. He's got ties to that, and we tag along. And then he also does recruiting with us for our competitions. We have the Cultural and Community Diversity Unit. So they're doing a lot of the social stuff. So coffee with a cop, Copsicle, any kind of main event, Pride Parade. Like these are the officers who are pretty out in the community and well known. Training and development, so all officers go through annual recertifications, and so we have a unit dedicated to making sure everybody's up to speed on all their use of force options. Payroll, of course, because we need to get paid. Integrated health and wellness is a pretty robust unit here at Regina Police Service, and I've seen that grow, especially in the last 5 years. So there's been a big focus on keeping people mentally and physically healthy to get them through their career and then throughout their retirement. So we have a manager of that section. We have a EFAP coordinator. So if I need some time off, I don't have to do anything really with my manager. We have a dedicated person who handles everything, so it makes it easier for me as an employee. We have a fitness coordinator who runs fitness classes. She runs our POPAT fitness class, meal plan, fitness challenge, just a little bit of everything. She's got a lot of experience from being out at the police college, so she really knows how to prepare people. We have an in-house physiotherapist and an admin assistant that helps with bookings. And so as an employee here, if I trip and fall in the parking lot and I hurt my wrist, I can just try and see someone on site as opposed to waiting weeks down the road and hopefully getting an appointment in with another physiotherapist. So just kind of reduces the time away from work when we have an in-house person. And really anybody is allowed to go see this physiotherapist. And then other areas, financial services. Again, you guys, if you follow the budget, there's a lot of intricacies with budget demands, where we're going to place our money. So we have a whole financial team that helps us through that. Information technology, I think this section has quadrupled in my time here. You think of all the different databases that a police organization utilizes and the amount of online threats, activity, hacking, everything that you can think of. There's some really sensitive information on there, so our IT services does a lot of that stuff. They're also responsible for all the workings of our in-car CAD, in-car camera. Like, there's a lot of techie equipment that comes with policing these days. And so these are specialized people to help us with that. The last two sections on here are kind of our big area for civilians. So we call it PIME, Police Information and Evidence Management section. So this is anybody from like court services clerks, CPIC operators. So as an officer, if I'm radioing for a check on John Doe, I just click my radio and it goes to somebody who's working in this building, who's trained to give me all the information I need. Evidence management. If I go out on a call for service and I seize a bunch of evidence, I just bag and tag it and put it in a locker, and then we have a whole fleet of civilians who go retrieve that. They catalog it, document, store it. If I need it for court, I just put in a request. They gather it all for us. So we're really treated very well here. Smaller organizations don't have such a robust civilian staff, and officers end up doing a lot of that work on their own. So we're very thankful to have those individuals in our organization. And then asset management. So fleet services, if you were around the backside of the parking lot, you know how many police cars we have. There's unmarked plainclothes cars. We have people off-site. There's a lot of vehicles that they're responsible for. So anywhere from mechanic right down to somebody who's washing, gassing vehicles, cleaning them, flat tire, quick maintenance. So there's a lot of job opportunity there. And then facilities is a lot of our custodian staff. So this space that we're sitting in is brand new. We used to just have the one building, but now we've taken over this other side of the building. So we've drastically increased our custodian staff. So lots of opportunity within those 4 divisions. Okay, so the next couple of slides are going to talk about if you're specifically interested in a career in policing. And then there's some slides on civilian employment, because not everybody is here at an info session or tuning in because they want to be a police officer. We hire for all positions here, and we need a lot of people to work in our organization. So we'll start with kind of where you start in the patrol aspect as a police officer. So everybody who's hired goes through police college. When they come out of police college, you automatically start in patrol. Patrol is where you learn how to become a police officer and apply all of the information that you've learned at police college. So you really do need a good 3 to 5 year foundation of that experience to feel really competent in your job before you start branching out in maybe some of those other areas that were on the slides. We follow a shift work pattern in patrol, which I'll demonstrate after, and it's a 12-hour shift configuration. So kind of hard to see at the back, but I'll just describe the shift pattern here. So the gold shifts are day shifts, and the navy shifts are night shifts, and the gray squares on there are your days off. So real quick, when you look at that slide, you can quickly see that you literally only work half the month, and then the other half you're off. That's the joy of the 12-hour shift rotation. So you can work a Monday, Tuesday day shift, and a Wednesday, Thursday night shift, and then you get 5 days off. Then you come back, you work a Wednesday, Thursday day shift, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night shift. Then you get 4 days off. And then you come back and you work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday day shift, and a Monday, Tuesday day shift, and then you get 5 off. So it seems a little bit complex, but when you look at it, you work 2 weekends a month, one's day shift and one's night shift, and the other 2 weekends you're off. So shift work provides a lot of flexibility for travel, young kids, family. Some people have second jobs, and so the shift work pattern allows you a lot of time off. So if you look at the Monday, Tuesday day and the Wednesday, Thursday night, if you were to take those 4 days off in holiday days, you get the 5 days before and the 5 days after. So you get 14 days off, but you only burn 4 holiday days. So there's a lot you can do in 2 weeks. It might help you with childcare. You might want to travel to Europe. You might be moving and want to have some time off to get settled in or finish your basement. There's a lot of flexibility in that, and you can have that time off like 4 times a year where you're getting your 4 weeks of holidays. So really when you do the math, you work less days in a year, like less than half of the days in a year. So a lot of people love this shift work pattern. It's hard work. I'm not here to say it's all roses. Our city is busy. You're going to be running and going call to call and very busy during your shift, but your time off is your time off. So if you don't want to come in on your days off for extra overtime, you're not obligated to. There's no mandatory overtime, of course, unless the city, something major happens and they call in all officers. If you pick up any extra overtime on one of those gray days when you're on day off, you get paid double time. So a lot of people will bump up their wage or bank some time off by picking up a football game or a concert, make double time or double the hours and put that in a time bank to allow you to take more time off or a payout. So there's lots of flexibility there. If you start and end your day shift on a stat, it's triple time. So if you work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Christmas, you get paid triple time for that time that you're there. So there's some, that's the payoff to giving up your Christmas with your family, is that you're compensated for it. So lots of flexibility in this shift pattern. Okay, so some of the requirements for policing. So provincial requirements are 18 years of age, grade 12 or grade 12 equivalent, or if you had your education in another country, just making sure that it's transferable and equivalent here. Standard first aid and CPR level C, which includes child. Valid class 5 driver's license, and this needs to be a graduated driver's license. So you cannot have any restrictions on your driver's license, like only so many passengers, you know, because you have to be able to transport people to cells or to another location. Visual acuity, so you do have to get your eyes tested. So 20/60 in both eyes for a prescription, or 20/40 in one and 20/100 in the other eye. I can't tell you if your eyes are going to pass based on, you know, what your strength of your glasses are, but we do ask you to go for an eye test. And you can also have no marked degree of color blindness. So there are people who don't meet that threshold and are not eligible for a career with us. And then ability to pass written, physical, and medical exams, which we'll talk about. We have some additional requirements. Obviously, in Saskatchewan, we need you to be 19 years of age because that is the legal drinking age, and we need you to be able to respond to calls at a licensed establishment. You have to be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, but there's no time length. So if you get your permanent residency on a Friday, you can apply that same day. Some other agencies have a 2, 3, or 4-year window on that residency. For us, as long as you have it, you're good. No criminal record as an adult. So nothing on no criminal charges since you've been an adult. If you have some stuff in the past from when you were a teenager, it's not going to apply. It'd just be something that we chat about, but clearly when you're applying, everybody's a little bit different than they were as a teenager. This is a big one. So no criminal involvement in the past 3 years, detected or undetected. So detected crime in the last 3 years would be, I had 10 beers at the bar, I drove home, I was pulled over by the police, I was given a demand, I blow over, I'm charged. Detected. Undetected would be the exact same scenario, but I drive home and I'm not caught, but I get home and I think, holy cow, I'm so glad I didn't see a police officer, hit any red lights, like I'm happy I made it home, I shouldn't have been driving. We still deem that as impaired driving. So those are things you have to think about. We're gonna talk about the personal disclosure form. That's where you really need to look through that and make sure you're kind of outside the 3-year window on a lot of those crimes. Other things that people don't think about that we're starting to see is like self-checkout. Groceries are expensive, yes, we know that, but you cannot scan your avocados as bananas. And so people are trying to punch in a different code to save some money, or you get to the trunk of your car and you're like, I didn't pay for that paper towel, but you don't go back. You don't make any effort. You're just like, well, it's their mistake. Depending on the circumstance, it's a case-by-case basis, but it could be something that gets you deferred. It really just depends. hit and run, like dinging the door beside you, backing out of a spot, moving to a different spot, and then going into wherever you were going, and you don't leave your name or any information. We're kind of looking to see what you do when no one's watching, and that's kind of what that personal disclosure form is testing. So make sure you're outside of that 3-year window. If you have questions or you have a one-off, run it by a recruiter, because there's a lot of things that we're going to accept. We don't expect people to be perfect. We all had things on our disclosure form, right? It's just the totality of it and the severity of it that might determine whether or not you get a deferral for it. The polygraph test, again, at our agency, we do still polygraph everyone. I know Canada-wide some people have gone away from it, but it's still in our Municipal Police Regulations Act that we do test everybody. So be prepared for a polygraph if you apply for a job here. And then other recommendations, so transferable job skills. So that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a security guard, a corrections guard, or have some kind of field in policing. Almost every job that people have come to us from is transferable. Customer service, for sure. Dealing with disgruntled people, trying to problem solve. Anything where you're working on a team, you're likely working with somebody you don't get along with, but you still need to work with them. There's a lot of job skill that comes from those situations. The further education, again, we get asked a lot, do I need a bachelor's degree? Can I have a diploma? Can I have certificates? What if I just have high school? The minimum requirement is high school. The important thing for us at our agency is we look for lifelong learners, because I told you I had 9 different positions. I had to apply for them, earn them, and then learn how to do those jobs. You don't just sit in that chair and start the job. You have to have a willingness to learn and take on new things. So if you have any opportunity in your workplace to pick up extra training, they're looking for someone to be a safety coordinator or the first aider role, or hey, we've got some new information on how to communicate with people. Are you interested in taking it? Take it, right? It looks really good on your resume and it shows us that lifelong learning. We don't discount education, so any kind of education is beneficial to us. So again, if you have questions, talk to a recruiter. There's things that we can recommend to you for low cost or no cost that will give you that educational component that you might not necessarily need to quit your job and go to school for 4 years for. Volunteer work in the community is huge. So we don't expect people to volunteer 60 hours a week. Everybody has a job, kids, life, things happen. But when the number one thing we hear at the final panel, when we ask people why they want to be police officers, they say they want to help the community. And so we're looking to see, what are you doing right now to help the community? Because you don't need to be a police officer to help the community, right? So we're looking for some people who are just doing simple things. Could be collecting bottles and donating it, warm jackets for a shelter, any kind of meal service, volunteering at your kids' sport, your church, whatever, your work organization, wherever you can do a little extra, it's helpful. We, of course, need you to be physically fit, because we're going to talk about POPAT, but kind of long gone are the days of the old donut cop rhetoric. We wear a lot of equipment, and it's really hard on your body, and then we get ourselves into situations sometimes by the nature of the calls that you need to be fit. You want to be fit to have a healthy outcome, so we really push physical fitness here, and we also have a really nice gym. It's a brand new gym that they dumped a lot of money into. You don't pay any money unless you want to donate $2 per check. It's open 24/7. It's got a cardio room, a yoga room, a training facility, a CrossFit area, a box, you name it, it's all there, and it's well utilized. So mental and physical thresholds, again, policing is not for everyone, even if you think it is. So you have to be able to demonstrate that you have the threshold for this type of job. And then ethics and integrity is our biggest piece, because a lot of the skills and tools that you need to be a police officer, we could teach you. I could teach most people in this room how to be a police officer, but you have to have strong ethics and integrity, so that I know if you go to a sudden death where grandma dies on the couch and she happens to have $100,000 under her mattress in that place, that there's $100,000 turned over to the family or seized, and that there's no temptation of you taking it knowing no one's watching you. It's things like that, right? So we can't train and teach people to have good ethics and integrity. You have to have that within yourself. The rest of the stuff we can kind of train you to do. Okay, so desired competencies. This will be my number one recommendation to anybody who comes to a panel interview. There likely could be a question on these desired competencies. Much like our mission, vision, values, these are near and dear to us. When you think of what makes a good police officer, it should be some of these things on the list. Adaptability. So being able to switch on a dime from one job to another. You might go to one call that your adrenaline's up here, you have a high risk arrest, you take the person to cells, you go out and the very next call is a 70-year-old person who had a B&E or a break-and-enter who's never had any police involvement, traumatized, but you're still revving high. You have to be able to flip the switch and adapt the roles. In patrol as well, you might come to work thinking, I'm gonna get some of my files done, I'm gonna have a good workout today, and the watch commander says, actually, you're gonna work in cells today. And you say, okay, and you have to flip your day. Or you're stuck at the hospital for 10 hours on your shift, and it's completely changed the way you do your day. So start thinking of examples where you can demonstrate how you've been adaptable. And then kind of go down the list. So commitment to learn, we talked about. Communication is huge. If you're not comfortable speaking in front of a group of people, start putting yourself in that position. As an officer, you need to be able to command presence. You need to be able to communicate information quickly. And when things are in a panic mode, you need to be able to communicate your location, what's going on. If you're in a foot pursuit, you need to demonstrate that you can communicate that for your safety and the safety of everybody in the city. So get comfortable with public speaking. Really put yourself out there. We might, as officers, present as type A. Not everybody's type A. There's a lot of people who have no desire to public speak, but that's part of the job, is that when you're out in the community, you're a public speaker. So cross-cultural sensitivity, again, is pretty self-explanatory. We're a diverse community, and you have to have an understanding and interest in learning more about other cultures when you're attending calls for service or collaborating with partnerships, which is why we rely on our community to educate us and have those partnerships, but it's important for our job. Initiative is another big one. So there's so many opportunities at Regina Police Service. It'd be hard pressed to find somebody who just comes here and works patrol and that's all they do. You can be instructors in many different things. You can sit on a bunch of different committees. You can be a crisis negotiator, like I said, and a school resource officer. There's so much out there for you in this organization that if you have initiative, you're gonna have a great, rewarding career, and you likely will finish your career wishing you had done 5 more jobs. There's just not enough time in your career to do the positions here, so we love people who can demonstrate initiative. Integrity and truth and judgment, we talked about that as well. Professional and ethical, so always carrying yourself in a professional manner, because we do reference checks. Once you're an officer in the city, most people are gonna know. Your neighbors are gonna know. People are gonna identify you in the community when you're in a grocery store. They're gonna know that you stopped them, and so you always have to present yourself as professional. Self-motivated, and the biggest one is teamwork. Policing is a team sport, so if you didn't grow up playing team sports, that's okay, but please understand that you can't come in here and do this job all on your own. I can't recruit on my own, patrol can't solve crime on their own. It's always a collaboration, and that's what makes our agency so good, is there's such a good camaraderie between the civilians, the officers, everybody that works here. We all have kind of that common goal, so it's a really cool place to work when you're working with like-minded people. Okay, so kind of what we offer. Probationary constable, so day 1, you're hired, you go to police college. In fact, we bring you in a week before and start paying you so that we can get you ready for police college. You're starting at just over $73,000. The first class constable is 5 years. So once you have 5 years complete, it's $122,000. I would beg to differ that most 5-year officers are making more than that with overtime, special duty, a missed lunch break, that triple time stat pay. There's gonna be a lot of extras. So this is kind of the minimum of what you're gonna get. And then the next rank up is sergeant, starts at about $144,000. And then we just ratified a new contract that gets us 12% over the next 3 years. So those increases will go up till the end of 2026. So lots of room for compensation here. That being said, we never want to see someone get into policing for the pay, because it's not worth it. You got to want to love to do this job. The pay is just compensating you for putting your life on the line and getting out there and doing that work. So other things that are important, pension plan. Something I didn't care about when I started at 23 years old. It just didn't matter to me. I would have did the job for free, but now that I'm here, 23 years, it's super important. So understanding pension, ours is a defined benefit, so it doesn't run out. So I can retire at 51. On average, I might make 50% of my salary. So say I retire at $160,000 a year. I'm gonna make $80,000 a year for the rest of my life that I'm alive. That's how that pension plan works. And so could I go on and do another job for 120 and then collect my 80,000 in pension? I can, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there. So that pension is protection for you and your family, for your hard work, so that you have that in your retirement. So very important. Dental, we pay $0 into our dental plan. That's all covered by the City of Regina for us and our loved ones. Medical plan, again, is pretty comparable across the board. It's got your basics, your chiro, physio, massage, prescription, that type of stuff. Healthcare spending, so on average you get about $1,200 a year that you can utilize to go towards whatever wasn't covered, say of your dental plan or your prescription plan. We also have a flex option, so if you want to put it towards buying a treadmill or runners or a yoga class or anything like that, that money is for you to choose where you want to spend it. You also have the option that you can put it towards your medical premiums, and you just get a $1,200 check at the end of the year. A lot of people will use that for Christmas gifts or a trip or something like that. So it's there for you. Maternity, paternity leave as well. You get 95% of your wage for 24 weeks. Fitness facility, I talked about. The gym, there's kind of a picture of it on the site. That's just the weight room side. It's about a quarter of what our actual gym is. So just kind of highlights it. Again, you can contribute $2 a month if you want. Most people don't have an additional gym membership at another place because we have everything that you need here. It's open 24/7. I can bring my son here. There's lots of options. Wellness coordinator, I talked about her. She's the one that does a lot of our fitness classes on the lunch break. She does the POPAT training class. She's been out of the college for 20-some years. She understands the physical demand and threshold that you need for a police officer. She's super beneficial. Education incentive is also important. So if you're a lifelong learner and you want to go back and get a bachelor's or a master's or a diploma or a certificate, you register for the class, you pay for it, you pass it, you submit your receipt. Depending on what level, like if it's a master's, a certificate, a bachelor, depending on what it is, there's a rank, and you'll be compensated back if you pass that class. So it's something that I did. I finished up my degree on my shift pattern and was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree, and it totally saved me a ton of money by having Regina Police Service contribute towards it. Life insurance kind of works out to be about 3 times your salary. So if you're in patrol and you're making 122, times that by 3 if you were to die outside of work. If you were to die in the line of duty, it's exponentially more. Of course, we never want to see that happen, but your family will be well compensated. Professional development, again, I talked about chasing the variety here. That's really why we all love working here, is because you might feel tired in a section and you just apply out and work somewhere else, and a change is as good as a break, as my partner says upstairs. So it is true. So it's kind of, you can dabble in a lot of things here and build a really strong resume, potentially for a retirement job, or just to be proud of a full career. Promotional opportunities, again, you can rank all the way up. And then the team atmosphere I talked about is kind of the highlights. So how to apply. So this changed a few times in the last year, but just know that now everything's just submit online. If you go to our recruiting website, the recruiting package is on there. It has absolutely everything that you need to fill out, and you submit that to the recruiting email. Of course, we're going to talk about all the documents you need. It's going to take you a bit of time to kind of put your application package together. If you have questions when you're filling it out and you're not sure if you're doing it right, reach out to a recruiter. We're more than happy to meet with you. A lot of people bring their package in to have it reviewed, just so that you have peace of mind knowing you filled it out properly. Okay, so these are the things that are included in the application package. So there's a simple form, which is kind of your tombstone information: name, date of birth, address, where are you working. And there's a little blurb at the bottom that you can fill in that speaks about your desires and why you want to be a police officer. We do read that. It's important to fill that out. Some people will just shortcut it and put a line or two, but just know that like first impressions matter. And a lot of people are extremely passionate about pursuing this career, so put that down on paper. You also provide your resume. The personal disclosure form we're going to talk about next. It's a 44 page document that's on our website, and it's going to talk about everything that you probably don't want to talk to anybody about. It's anything that you've done in your past. Remember, we're not looking for perfect people. Almost everybody has some kind of disclosure on there. If you're concerned about your disclosure and it may be getting you a deferral, reach out to a recruiter, because some people tend to overthink maybe what the question is asking. Or on the flip side, they don't think it's something that's important, and it is. So we'll talk about that one next. Driver's abstract. So if you've only ever had a license in Saskatchewan, go back as far as you can. This has a small fee. You can get it at any insurance provider. If you maybe lived in Toronto and then came to Saskatchewan, we are going to ask you for a driver's abstract from both if you can get it. Again, if you have tickets, if you have accidents, that's okay. We hope to not see a ticket for going 237 kilometers in a 100 zone. But maybe you were young and you had a really cool car and you drove it fast and you got caught. There's always a way to like explain what's going on. So again, don't be upset if you have 6 at-fault accidents or a cell phone ticket, or that's normal. That's life. You're going to give us the vision test as well. We'll just look over it and make sure everything's okay. Educational transcripts. So the minimum is high school. But if you have a university degree or another diploma from a post-secondary, then we likely know you graduated high school, and we would want to know your highest level of education. And then that first aid level C CPR certification. Most providers, once you get it, it's good for 3 years. So if you think you're going to apply in the next year or so, just get it out of the way now and then save that certificate, and then you could submit it. Okay, the personal disclosure form. Normally, if we weren't interactive, I'd ask how many people have looked at it. I highly encourage you to all go look at it if you're interested in being an employee here. Civilians and police officers fill out the same personal disclosure package. The only addition is if you've worked as a corrections guard, a security guard, certain positions, we just have a few more questions. Okay, so we need you free and clear for that 3 years. So if you've ever looked at the form, it kind of starts off with just your information, how many car accidents you've been in, have you been at fault, tickets. It's going to go a little bit into like, do you gamble? Have you ever been in a vehicle when it's been involved in a hit and run? Then it goes on to kind of like alcohol-related offenses. So again, it's got a window on there. It'll say at any point in the last 3 years, have you ever been behind the wheel of your vehicle impaired and you continued to drive and drove home? You want to disclose that all on there. This isn't just necessarily having a beer and driving home. It really depends on the person. If it's a departure from your norm. So if you normally have a beer and you drive home and it's nothing, don't worry about it. But if you're never drink and you have 2 glasses of wine, you're likely going to be impaired, right? So just be as honest as you can, and if you're unsure, reach out to a recruiter. Then again, it continues on into illicit drug use. So obviously marijuana is legal now. You can use marijuana, but we have a fit for duty policy. So it's going to ask you how many times you've used marijuana in the last year. If your answer is 312 times, I'm going to wager that you likely would never have been fit for duty. So we might ask you to curb some of that. Some people use it for injury, pain, sleep, stress. That's okay, but it's the consistency of it and just understanding our fit for duty policy. One of the common things that we're seeing now is microdosing with mushrooms. I know people are doing it. It's a little bit like marijuana, but before it was legal, people were doing it, but it still is an illegal substance. And so if you're ordering mushrooms from BC or some website and you're microdosing, you probably want to reach out and talk to a recruiter. Performance enhancing drugs is the other one, so steroid use. So a lot of individuals will buy stuff kind of on the black market, inject it into their body for performance reasons. Depending on what it is, where you got it, and how you obtained it, you're going to have to do some explaining so that we can ensure that you're free and clear from that window. The PDF continues on into a lot of sexual related offenses. So since you've been 21, have you ever engaged in a conversation with someone who was under the age of 15? Are you on any social dating apps? Have you ever had a conversation with someone who maybe appeared underage? You're going to have to articulate that to us. Sometimes mistakes happen or things happen and you can say, I had no idea, but once I found out, I stopped. Fine. Are you sharing images that you're not supposed to be? So two people in an intimate relationship, one shares a photo with the other, and then that person then shows 6 other people or puts it in a group chat. Just kind of, it's starting to bring into question some of your decision making. If you did that in high school or years ago, it's fine, but if you're doing it now, we might have some questions about it. Ever put anything in somebody's food or drink to incapacitate them? Ever been in any kind of physical fight with another human being? Have you ever been in a domestic related experience? Like, you're gonna have to answer all of these questions that are extremely uncomfortable. And it's unlike any job interview you're ever gonna go to where you have to have a conversation with a recruiter or polygraphist about some of these things. Just know that I don't remember what people tell me years down the road. We accept a lot of things. We're not looking for perfect people. It's just making sure we're within that window. If it's something that we're okay with, we'll let you know, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So kind of puts your mind at ease. If it gets you a deferral, it gets you a deferral, but we'll give you things that you can work on so that when you come back to us, you're ready to go. So again, please take a look at that form. There's a lot of uncomfortable questions on there. You're gonna have to be honest about it. That's all we're asking for, is people who have been honest. Yeah, I did that. I've learned from that. I don't do that anymore. That was in my past. Perfect. Okay, so the next 2 slides are about the steps in the process. So I like to think of step 1 as getting that package together, because it just showed you all the documents that you need to get. And that personal disclosure form is typically not filled out in one sitting. You're gonna do it in bits and pieces. So after you have your package together and you submit it to us, you'll be invited. We have 2 intakes a year, and you got to think we work 6 months in advance. So the police college starts in January and July. So if you want to go to police college in July, you would have started the competition in January. So if you were to apply today, you would still be in the fall competition. Your testing would start in July. You'd go through testing from July till November, with police college January of 2026. So some people have questions about that. Again, just reach out if you do. The very first step is Sigma. It's our entrance exam. It's 74 questions in 35 minutes. It is a pressure time test. If I gave you guys all 2 hours, you'd all pass it. Some people, even if I gave them 10 extra minutes, would have no problem with it. But really, it's about critical thinking under stress. So a little bit of vocabulary, spelling, punctuation, grammar, things that we don't necessarily practice as much anymore, and then problem solving at the end. So we do a really good job of giving you instruction on how to approach that test. Some people got to write it once just to kind of figure out where to put their time. If you're not successful the first time, you have to wait 60 days before you can write again. If you're not successful the second time, you have to wait 6 months. And then if you want to write a third time, we have to make application to the police commission. So we want you to write that test when you feel like you're ready. Lots of people ask us, where do I study? How do I learn more? It's kind of an aptitude test. You either have it or you don't. But that being said, there are resources online. Police Prep has some information on Sigma. Unfortunately, some comes with a fee, but they do have a practice test. There's old Sigma books that are on the internet with practice tests. Amazon, you could Google stuff. But really, for the most part, if you're in a post-secondary program or have post-secondary learning, I find that spelling and grammar is a little more current. likely because you've been writing reports or essays. But if you've been out of school, this might challenge your memory on some grammar and stuff. So once you're successful at Sigma, then you advance to POPAT. Be prepared to run the POPAT the minute you submit your application, because somebody might apply May 1st, and I'm going to say you're going to write the Sigma on this date in July, and like 4 days later you're running POPAT. And some people are like, oh, I'm not ready yet, right? So then you're going to be deferred to the next group. So be ready to run it at any time. The POPAT test, there's a video online. I highly recommend you watch it. I've seen people get to the test and not understand the flow of the course or even understand the fact that they would have had to jump a 6-foot mat. We're trying to hire trained, skilled investigators who are going to do some digging and some work and put in the effort. So watch the video. A yoga mat is 6 feet. Drop it on the ground. Practice running and jumping it. There's lots of tips online on how to be successful at that POPAT. You need to complete it under 4 minutes and 45 seconds. You have to get comfortable with running it because you run it to get in the competition, and then you have to run it 30 days before police college to make sure you're still within that 4:45. Then I hate to break it to you because usually in your first week of police college you run it again just to see where everyone's at. And then in order to graduate from the police college you have to come out passing it in under 4:15. So I've seen people who are a 4:45 be able to pass it in a 4:15, just naturally going through police college because you're in better shape. But the closer you can get to that 4:15, it likely will alleviate some stress off you during your time in college. Next up, screening interview. So you come in and you meet with us recruiters. We just go over some really general questions about like your experience, what you bring, what are your motivations, why do you want to be a police officer, do you understand what the job is, what's going on in the city. We might ask you for some examples that might be pulled from those 10 competencies about tell us about a time you've worked in conflict or on a team or had to be adaptable. Once you finish the questions of that interview, then we do the personal disclosure form review. So we're going to go over that disclosure form face-to-face as well. We might not go over every question. If you make it to the screening interview, we've likely accepted everything that's on there. So this is just to see if there's any additions. After your screening interview, you'll be booked in for a polygraph. So sometimes these steps roll one after another. So you might do a screening interview one week and a polygraph the very next week. Again, this polygraph, I highly recommend you don't Google polygraph. You don't talk to people who've done it. Some people really overthink polygraph, but really if you sit in the chair, you follow instructions, you answer the questions, and you're honest, it really doesn't trip a lot of people up. If you think you're going to defeat the machine by putting coins in your shoes or tacks or squeezing your bum cheeks or wiggling your toes, it's not going to work out well for you. So don't put a lot of energy into understanding what the machine does. Just show up and just follow instructions. So after polygraph, we do a background investigation. This is not the digging in to see what we can find about you. We kind of already know who you are. This is you providing references on people who are going to speak on your behalf. Not everybody tells their current employer that they're in the application process. We don't phone and notify them until this background stage. So you will get a warning from whoever's doing the background check to say, hey, I'm going to start calling your references, which is going to include your current place of employment. So if you haven't told your supervisor, this is the time to do it. Again, that is done by usually a retired member, somebody who has nothing to do with HR. They're seeing that information fresh for the first time. They provide a summary back to us on the people that they talk to, and then you advance to psych testing. Kind of a couple different ways it could happen. We have in-house psychologists that can do the testing here. And we also utilize contracted services as well that do it maybe via an email link or a phone call. So there's a couple different varieties there, but this psych testing is really just comparing your answers to the questions to the general norm of police officer responses, just to see if you have that mental threshold. And then after psych testing, you come in for that final panel interview. So recruiters do not hire you. We help you, we mentor you, we coach you, we get you where you need to be, polish you all up, and then present you to the panel. The panel typically consists of 3 people. So one of our 2 deputies, our HR manager, and then another officer, usually of a senior someone who's got about 20 years plus experience. So those are the individuals who ask you some questions, get to know who you are personality-wise, and they're the ones that make the decisions on whether you're going to be hired or not. Once you get that offer, this is kind of the next step. Your offer of employment is conditional on you passing a medical exam. So again, we set that all up for you, we pay for it. You do not need to disclose to us if you're on medications for PTSD or ADHD. It's not that type of medical. The medical is, are you fit for police college? Do you have any really outstanding major health issues that are going to hold you back? You have to successfully pass police college. You got to pass that POPAT under 415. And then you also have to pass your recruit field training. Once you come out of college, you spend some time with a field training officer. You have to be able to pass that. Your probation, start to finish, is 1 year. So from the day you're hired, a year later, you'll be off probation. Okay, last slide on like the police officer side of things. So police college is 21, sometimes 22 weeks, depending on the class size. It's all held out at the University of Regina, kind of in the College West area is where the police college is located. You're gonna spend kind of Monday to Friday for those 21 or 22 weeks going through all of the training to learn how to be a police officer. You're going to graduate and you're going to come out, and you can spend anywhere between like 5 or 6 months with your field training officer. Each person is different. We will not send you out on your own if you're not ready and we don't think you're capable of kind of being on your own. It's a lot to take on your first day by yourself. Everybody remembers their first calls because it's just that feeling of not having someone with you. But that being said, some people feel like they're not ready, and we know they are. So it really just depends, but it's about 5 to 6 months. And you'll likely work with multiple field training officers just so you can see different styles and approaches to policing and then kind of formulate your own kind of policing personality. Okay, some additional things that RPS offers. So we have a Treaty 4 Citizens Police Academy that starts in 2 weeks. It's kind of based towards Indigenous youth who are interested in maybe considering a career in policing. They come for 2 weeks, they out at the police college, they live out there, they kind of get a little bit of drill, some presentations from our specialty units, some report writing, interview, resume prep. It's just a little bit of everything. Our Citizens Police Academy. So again, you can Google this, it's on our website. It runs twice a year, kind of January and September. It's free of charge. You would have to commit to coming for 12 weeks. You'd come every Wednesday from 6 till 9 p.m. for those 12 weeks. You get presentations from all of our specialty units. You will get a ride-along, and so this is the best way to get a ride-along. You will also go down to the range and get to fire some of the different weapons that we have. So again, once you graduate from that, you have alumni opportunities. So if you want to volunteer with Regina Police Service, like these are all good things that look good on your resume. It shows that interest in our organization. Not everybody who takes it wants to be a police officer. Some people are just curious, so it's open to everybody. So I would highly consider it. The next one starts in September, so there's just an application form that you can fill out. There's also a POPAT fitness class. Again, some people ask, like, can I just sign up? You can't. We need to see where you're at. So we want to watch you run a POPAT. You have to be within a certain window because we only have X amount of weeks to prep you to be successful at POPAT. So if you can never jump the 6-foot mat, we might be able to coach you, but we don't know if you struggle on push-pull, on the vault, like the different segments of POPAT. So usually if you're within that 4 to 5.5 minutes, we can kind of invite you and train you and bring you in. It's for males and females. And then you get an extra attempt at the POPAT. So you can run POPAT at the 30-day POPAT with other people. And if you're not successful, you can come back in 2 weeks and run it. So if we notice that maybe this class is going to be a benefit to you, we're going to approach you and chat with you after you've run your POPAT with us the first time. Sometimes there's volunteer experiences with victim services. You got to watch that on the website, but there are a lot of volunteers that help advocate for victims and connect victims people who've been victims of crime. They kind of follow them through the court process and provide supports for them. So again, it's a really good experience to get some insight into the organization. And then I talked about the volunteer stuff with the alumni. Okay, for those interested in civilian positions, lots of opportunity here. These are some of the main core areas that we have job opportunities. So IT services, each one of those sections that we saw for patrol, for major crimes, family services, all these tech positions, they all have administrative assistants. Some of those positions kind of start off entry level, so you don't necessarily have to have a ton of education. You just have to meet the requirements for it. It's a great way to get into the organization. It's also a great job to stay in because you can move in different divisions and get good experience. Some of our administrative assistants are the scribes on SWAT calls, so they're in the command bus or at the command post and they're documenting everything, writing it up on whiteboards. There's some really cool opportunities in the administrative roles. Financial services I talked about, human resources, we have a lot of civilian positions up there. Those big ones that I talked about, the PIME and facilities, that's a bulk of where our civilians work. Fleet services as well, and then communications, so our 911 dispatchers. Pretty similar application process with the exception that all of these jobs are posted online. So if you go to our recruiting website, there's a tab at the bottom that says review or view civilian job opportunity. You can click on that. Jobs are posted almost on a weekly basis. Some of those people who come into those entry-level jobs advance up and then the jobs are available again. So don't discount civilian employment. If you still want to be an officer, but maybe you're not ready yet, or you've got something's holding you back, you want to finish your education, a lot of people will come and work some casual positions or just try and get into the organization to be a stronger candidate when they come through. So there's a portal on there. You can upload your resume, you can click jobs that you're interested in, and you'll be notified when those jobs come available. And then you just click apply. Make sure that your resume and your cover letter match the job you're applying for. So some people will submit they want to be an admin assistant, so their cover letter will reflect that. And then all of a sudden they put in for IT or fleet services, right? So again, look professional, change your cover letter. It's really simple steps, but there's a chance you could be excluded from a position based on something like that. So make sure you proofread your resume, have someone look at it for you. All positions will list what the minimum requirements are. So if there's an educational component, a typing test component, any kind of testing is all going to be listed in the posting. The applicant pool, they kind of look based on resumes, screen it down to X amount and then start interviews. We do have 3 civilian recruiters attached to HR. Their information's online as well, so if you have questions, you can ask them. Still got to fill out that personal disclosure form. So make sure you fill that out. The difference is you don't have to submit it up front for civilian positions. If you're screened in and you're going to come for an interview, that recruiter will then reach out to you and then ask for it. So please don't submit it in advance. You are subject to polygraph and those reference checks, and then you're offered a position. So lastly, just going to cover a new job. Not sure if everyone's heard of it, but they've been pretty noticeable in our community since their inception. So we now have an alternate response officer position. This is a special constable position. These individuals wear a lot of the same equipment that I'm wearing. Their shirt is gray. Instead of on the back, it doesn't say police, it'll say special constable. Their vehicles look slightly different. They don't carry a gun and a taser, and they're primarily located in the downtown. They're doing a lot of that community work. They're connecting people to services. They're working with our community partners, say like Globe Theatre, Cornwall Center, Downtown Bid. They're the liaison kind of for some of the activity that's going on downtown. So the same requirements apply as for a policing position. The only difference is the recruiting process is you don't have to write Sigma. So if you're not successful at Sigma, and maybe you have to wait 6 months, I would consider applying for an ARO position. I guarantee you probably by the time you come through, you get exposed to police, report writing, tactics, like some of that stuff on Sigma might come easier to you. So you start at POPAT, but you still go through all the steps. This is kind of what AROs do. They facilitate a lot of outreach for those vulnerable people. They don't necessarily go to calls in progress, and obviously nothing with firearms or violence, but they're great assistants to us. They might be first on the scene and relay information, and they're always working in conjunction with our downtown police officers. When you're hired, there's 2 intakes a year, just like our regular ones, so January and the fall. You are trained here in-house for 8 weeks, and then you go out with your field trainer for 8 weeks, which those field trainers right now are police officers. Right now they kind of work a variety of shifts. ARO is not a job that we see being 24/7 because a lot of the downtown stuff is over after a certain period of time. So there's kind of a days and then an afternoon shift. But there is potential for it to go to a 12-hour shift rotation. So you have to be willing to work shift work for this position. The starting wage is $58,307, and then when it says up to $99,000, that's at that 5-year mark. So just like I talked about that constable bump at 5 years, this is the ARO bump. So again, some pretty significant compensation. You get all the pension benefits, everything that I talked about, access to the gym. You are an employee here. So it's a really great position to start in if you need some more exposure to communication, being downtown, police culture, that kind of stuff. It's a really good job. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause this for a second. My tech person is going to swap screens, and we're gonna show our recruiting video. Then the last slide is just the recruiter's information. Then we'll kind of wrap up the virtual session. I'll get away from this microphone, and then we can interact as a group. Good.
Policing gives you a window to everything that's happening in your city. You're a positive role model. You're helping people fight crime. You're helping keep your community safe. You're giving people hope that their community can change and be better.
Every single person that works here wants to do good, and they want to do good for their community. They want to help people. They want to save lives. They want to make the community better.
Whether you're interested in sciences like forensic identification or motor vehicle collision investigation, SWAT, canine, aerial support, there's no end to what you can do at the Regina Police Service.
In policing, there's no one day that's the same. You're going to be going to different calls every day. There's going to be different units that you can go into. It takes a lot of skill and training, obviously, but RPS is doing a great job of that too.
Training here is state of the art. We're getting a lot of different training for officers. So there's even more opportunities than when I started 20 years ago. Policing has changed, and it's good to see that the training has changed with it.
Being able to police the community of Regina is very unique. Giving back to the community that you grew up in, being part of the Punjabi community, I think it goes a long way as well. Just being able to bridge that gap between the community and the police, being able to do my job as a police officer and do my job as a community member.
It's a great job to provide for a family. The career itself is rewarding. The organization is great, and the teamwork, the people that you work with are fantastic.
When you're in patrol and you're working shift work, I still get to spend a lot of time with my family. I've found that I've been able to have a great work-life balance.
This job is not for everybody. It truly is not. But it is the best job in the world, and there's just nothing else like it. Even though we offer great pay and great benefits and great pension, teamwork, atmosphere, it's still at the core an excellent opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life.
My advice to anyone looking into this career would be to make sure that it's something that you're really interested in and you're in it for the right reasons. It's a challenging career, but it's also a very exciting and rewarding career.
At the Regina Police Service, there is a great camaraderie, and you're going to make lifelong friends doing this job. You're going to go through some intense situations, some dangerous situations. There's a bond that is created that can't be replicated in other careers.
As big as we are, we're still a small family. And that is what we at RPS have to offer people compared to other agencies, because there's no better place to work than the RPS.
I get to go out every day and communicate with the public and see something different every day. I just think that it's a rewarding job because we get to help people make better choices in their lives and give people different options.
Policing has been incredible for me. There's so many different things that you can do in this career that aren't offered in other careers, and you're always moving around and you're always experiencing new challenges. Anybody who is thinking about policing, I would encourage you to apply.
I was put on this path of policing for a reason, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay, last slide. Okay, so this is who we are. Sergeant Lisa Davies in the middle. She's new to recruiting this year, but she has 22 years of policing experience. She has a lot of that detective work from the plainclothes section. She's got a lot of background in there. The other officer is Constable Stu Shane. He comes from 8 years of K-9 as well. So he's a patrol cop through and through. He wants to just chase down crime. So all of our information is on here. It's on our website. We're very blue collar, humble pie people. Our job is to mentor you and get you where you need to be. I can tell you a lot of things that you can do to make yourself a strong applicant, and then it's on you to take that opportunity to do it. So you won't get a generic response from us. You're going to get a personal response. We meet people for coffee. People come in here all the time and meet with us and have chit chats. We talk about personal disclosure form. We talk about, you know, where should I be volunteering? Should I change my job? Any of those types of questions, please reach out to us anytime. Again, for those people who tuned in online, we don't have an option for question and answer, but we will happily answer any questions that you have in the coming days and weeks. So please reach out. So I'm just going to end it here for the online people and say thank you for tuning in. And send your questions in or get your applications in. So thank you.